We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.
Okay. Yeah, Mordor is the Detroit.
Yes.
The Mordor.
Yeah, no, that music's terrifying, and I'm now looking around my office for spiders. Clarence Thomas? Hello, and thank you for listening to Cheapseat Reviews, the podcast that explores the Hollywood film industry for the greater good.
The greater good, and I would sing it or hum some sort of tune, but Lord knows we don't need that.
No. No, we really don't.
No, we don't.
That was a good call.
Ttk you. I appreciate it.
That would be kind of fun to do, like a 3-part harmony barbershop, the greater good. You know, like Sean and Gus do on Psych when they sing "Suck It," like something like that. That'd be kind of fun.
Sure, why not?
Sure, why not? This is episode.
We'll work on it.
We will. We'll workshop it. Yeah, because we have all the time to workshop these types of things. This is episode. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say this first. Thank you for listening. If you are a new listener, welcome to the show. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. I never say stuff like that. I should say that more often. Welcome back to Cheapseat Reviews. And again, if you're a new listener, welcome. The food is nice and the weather is comfortable. I don't know what I'm saying. This is episode 384. And tonight we're talking about the music of The Lord of the Rings. I am Sean Allred, and joining me tonight is Andrew, once had his tuba mouthpiece stolen. Jemison.
I was always questioning where it went. Because I heard rumors that it ended up in places that I probably shouldn't have put it in my mouth afterwards. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, you're fine. You'll be fine.
He's still alive.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yet.
You're fine.
It's still gestating in the stomach. So
gestating. Okay. It's like from Alien.
Right?
Just waiting for a mouthpiece alien to
You never
burst.
know where those mouthpieces go.
A chest burster. Sam
Yes.
plays the euphonium. The baritone. It's a small tuba. Vector.
You're not wrong in any of those, by the way.
Actually, I had
Sean.
that conversation with someone today.
Nice.
Yeah?
And they said, you should call it a baritone. And I said, but it's a euphonium.
It's a euphonium.
Yeah.
And then anybody who's not into music, you just tell them it's a small tuba, and they just nod their head in agreement and don't want to go any further. So
exactly.
That's generally what happens. But Sean,
Yeah.
for your torture this go round, I'm just going to sit you next to this fourth chair tenor sax, and they're going to tune continuously for at least 48 hours with you right next to them.
At least
you'll either drive yourself out of a window or be admitted to an insane asylum.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with either.
Yeah, the most unbelievable part about that is that the saxophone player is trying to tune. There you go. There's your rim shot. Speaking of saxophone players, joining us tonight, making his return, is Erik. Has some great sax appeal from the Cinematic Sound Radio podcast.
You got it right this time.
I didn't say it right this time on the first. I wrote it down. So
he stood in the mirror and
finally
said it 5 times in a row.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a man with a music staff came out and beat me to death. It was really strange. There were bees and other things. Oh.
I threw a cymbal at his head.
Yeah. So welcome back to the show, Erik.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh my goodness. We are more excited than you, I promise you. Mainly because for the last 3 weeks, we have been dying to talk about the film scores of these Lord of the Rings movies, the music of Howard Shore. It's just been killing them. It's been killing our guests. And tonight we can finally release the dam of all of the energy, like the exploding of Helm's Deep. I'm trying to make a metaphor here that doesn't sound sexual, but I can't really do it. So
no, you've gone down too far.
It's getting worse. It's actually making me uncomfortable. We're going to have to put an explicit tag on this episode. So
Who is
yeah.
Helm and how do I get in his deep? I think is what you were about to.
Oh no, I wasn't going to do any of that.
No, you weren't? Okay.
No,
Just
no, I wasn't. But I am going to do this. So this is going to be a different kind of episode than our normal review episode, mainly because we're not reviewing a single movie. We're reviewing music. We're talking about music. And so there's not going to be some of the usual trappings that we do on the show. There won't be a top 3. But I did ask Twitter to let us know just some of their favorite pieces of music from film score. So we'll still kind of have that moment where we can share other people's thoughts on music. Probably not going to do a 5-word review because I didn't ask anyone to, and I didn't write one. So I'm not going to do it now because that would be bad staff. That'd be bad work. So, or a bad podcaster, bad producer. That's the phrase, bad producer. So instead, I'm just going to start by saying Howard Shore, born in 1946, the same year as my dad. This guy is the same age as my dad, which is kind of I don't know what that means. It means it's interesting. Born in Ontario, Canada, and
Oh wow, I didn't know he was Canadian.
yeah,
Yep.
I didn't either
Nice.
until IMDb told me about 3 minutes ago. But Eric, you being Canadian, you all know each other, so that's pretty cool. You knew that.
Yeah. Howard Shore and I are best buds.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
like neighbors, aren't they all neighbors
yeah,
up there?
yeah.
Pretty much.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's all you guys all live next to each other.
we're all friends.
Yeah. I mean, there's only like
Sort
5 million of you up there or something. I'm sure you guys probably all know each other, right?
Yeah. Like we're all concentrated in Southern Ontario. The rest of Canada we don't care about. So
Yeah.
we're just a little
I
bit
just saw this weird graphic, Eric, about the majority of Canadians live below a certain latitudinal line. That's
So cold.
It's like-
they can't get any higher than that.
Yeah, we are like
it's all like focused near the
yeah,
Great
we're
Lakes.
focused Southern Ontario, so where the Great Lakes are. So that's Toronto. So there's like I don't know how many millions of people there, but that's like the huge metropolis. But yeah, we're I mean, as for it's either latitude or longitude, I forgot which one it is, but we're like in line with Northern California. So like a lot of U.S. Towns are north of us.
Yeah.
Here in Southern Ontario. So, but yeah,
And then there's one guy in British Columbia eating beavers, right?
yeah.
Just-
They're
yeah.
all the weird people in Saskatchewan. All those,
the funny
all
thing
those
is-
Newfies out in Newfoundland.
the Newfies,
They're
yeah.
doing
I
all
had a cousin get married in Detroit,
Yeah.
and they had the service in Detroit and the reception in Ottawa. Is it Ottawa right across the river? I can't remember.
No, that's Windsor.
Windsor. Thank you, Windsor.
That's strange. Really?
Yeah, it was the worst because you had to go through customs.
Yeah.
To get across. Anyway,
Well,
and
both
we had
cities
wedding
suck.
presents. We had wedding presents that were going to the reception, and they did not like it at the border crossing that we had wrapped presents
Oh,
during
right.
Canada. So anyway, it's a little like if you started out in the world of Mad Max or Escape from New York, and then like step into the world of Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
When Dorothy steps out the door and you've got all these nice little munchkins running around, everybody's happy. That's the difference between Detroit and Canada in that one spot. It's crazy. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
I haven't been to Windsor too many times. But it's not the greatest place on earth. But I guess anything is better than Detroit. And if
Detroit,
anybody lives in
yeah.
Detroit, I'm sorry, but I mean, yeah, it's terrifying.
Oh no,
It's
we've
terrifying.
dumped on
we
Detroit.
Okay.
yeah, we always pick poor
Yeah,
Detroit, really.
Detroit actually used to be kind of a punchline. Like whenever we would see another shit place in a film, we would just refer to that as something Detroit. Like,
Yeah. And at first we were afraid we were going to lose listeners, but then we actually got an email saying, "Hey, I live in Detroit. You're right. Everything that you're saying is perfectly
Good.
fine."
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Mordor is the Detroit.
it's
of
Yes.
the
Lord of the Rings.
Detroit
Yes.
of Lord of the Rings.
Well played.
Oh my gosh, I never thought that this was going to happen in the episode, but I'm so glad that it did.
You never know where we're gonna end up in this thing. I tell you.
Yeah, but honestly, it's been a while since we've invoked the name of Detroit, so
Yeah.
good on them. It's sad to say that like, the best thing that happened to Detroit is when their quarterback left to go to another team and won. It's like won a Super Bowl.
They are trying. God bless them. They are trying.
Yeah.
At this point,
Are
there's
they?
not much else to do.
Are they though? I don't know. Sorry, I'm being mean now. So hold on, I'm trying to think. There it is. Yeah, we don't have a lot of downloads in Michigan, so I think we're okay.
Oh, so you were looking.
I'm looking right now. Yeah. Which is weird. So, like, I know no one really cares about this stuff, but I always kind of nerd out about this stuff. Like, you would think that North Carolina would have the most downloads because that's where the three of us are. But North Carolina is not our most downloaded state. It's Iowa.
Well, you got to have people competent enough to use the computer. I'm sorry.
Well, it's Iowa is our number one, and then Ohio is our number two.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Iowa.
Hey,
They
what
like
else is
us
there
in
to do?
Iowa. So if you're listening to us in Iowa,
Thank you.
That's awesome.
I love corn.
Yeah. And Iowa caucuses and coming up soon, right? No, that's not a thing. That time soon.
No.
Sorry, I've been watching West Wing again, so they're talking about that stuff. Yes, I know. I'm dumb. I should be watching other things. I'm not. I'm watching West Wing again. So, but you know who didn't do the score for West Wing? That is Howard Shore. So,
Right.
Howard Shore, like I mentioned, Ontario, which is how we went on that fun Canadian tangent.
Interesting tangent, that's for sure.
You know, he was also a saxophonist, by the way.
I did not know that. That was it, really? Or are you just saying that just to say that?
No, he was a saxophonist. Yep.
Cool. I am looking at his bio on IMDb, and I did write down some of some trivia about him in case we cared to talk about that. But what I found really interesting, because a lot of this stuff I just didn't know, is that in the 80s, Shore composed film scores of works such as After Hours by Martin Scorsese, Big by Penny Marshall. I didn't know he did Big.
Yeah.
I'll talk about two different types of genre there.
Yeah, and then goes on to do Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
And which was a major hit of the era. And then from there, he would go on to do such scores as Mrs. Doubtfire and Seven. And then he would start
Philadelphia as well. You got it. I mean, he did some pretty award-winning stuff
but he was never nominated for it.
All right.
Yeah,
all those are big critical hits that won Academy Awards, but his scores for some reason never garnered the attention of the music branch, and I'm not sure why.
Well, I don't know. I guess when I think of Silence of the Lambs, I don't think about the music. I don't think of the score. You think of Anthony Hopkins and Buffalo Bill and Jodie Foster. You think of the acting and the action. I don't think of the music in that at all.
It's subtle. It's so subtle.
Yeah, and that might be...
It's incredibly effective. It is. Yeah.
I
mean, it sets the tone right off the bat, the first 5 minutes. That's exactly what you need to hear when Jodie Foster's kind of running around, but it's just like deep, dark stuff. But I mean, he picks all that up essentially with his work with David Cronenberg, because he's written every single film score for Cronenberg except for one.
Yeah,
that's Dead Zone, when the producers were, getting their fingers in the pie. And it was a bigger film for Cronenberg, so they had Michael Kamen write the score. But everything else that Cronenberg has done, it's Howard Shore. So that's basically where he started. In 1979, he did The Brood, and that's an amazing score. But I mean, The Fly, really huge operatic score. But yeah, I mean, he's done everything. I mean, he did Kevin Smith's Dogma. He did The Cell, which has some incredible like Middle Eastern influences all over it. I mean, he was Fincher's second composer, because Alien 3 was such a mess. Elliot Goldenthal did that, but once he went on to Seven, The Game, Panic Room, that's all Howard Shore. And but yeah, I mean, Shore. The great thing about Shore, and I don't think a lot of people realize that, especially many people came to Howard Shore based on Lord of the Rings, and a lot of people think that that's like the first thing he's ever done. But he had a prestigious career before that. I mean, for crying out loud, he was on Saturday Night Live as the band leader for 5 years. He was really good friends with Lorne Michaels. He met him in summer camp. That's how they became friends, and that's how Howard Shore got that gig. So he was also in the jazz fusion band called Lighthouse. So I mean, Shore's had an incredible, deep, varied, prolific career before he got into Lord of the Rings, but to hear that name, a lot of people were like, "Well, what a choice! What an outside of the box choice as composer for Lord of the Rings," and not too many people realize that he's already written in that style before. If you listen to a score that he did called "Looking for Richard," it's very similar to Lord of the Rings. But a lot of people, especially in the film score community, thought he was just the kind of like the brooding, dark, atmospheric composer, writing stuff for David Cronenberg. But he's an incredibly skillful, classically trained composer, and he knows his stuff. And Lord of the Rings was just, it was lightning in a bottle. It was the best possible outcome for him, and he was the best composer. I mean, he wasn't even the first composer suggested. Wojciech Kilar, Polish composer, who wrote Bram Stoker's Dracula, Portrait of a Lady. He's written a whole bunch of other great classical works like the September Symphony. An incredible composer, but he was initially going to write the score, and he came this close from being signed, but he had to duck out because just the amount of work that he would have to do, like the sacrifice that he would have to make, and he couldn't do it. He thought maybe he could do the first one, but the fact that he'd have to be on that for 4 or 5 years, he didn't want to do it. And then the other selection, or the other choice that they really, really wanted was James Horner. And James Horner would have been signed immediately, but something happened with his daughter. She had to go she had surgery or something like that around that time, and Horner said that he couldn't do it. So, but he was the number one choice for Peter Jackson at that point. And even Horner said in an interview just before he died, he said that he liked Shore's work, but he probably would have attacked that score in a different way. And whatever that way is, I don't know what it would be.
I find that, well, I love all of these guys, right? But I would love to see what their vision would have been. Yeah. Even if it's just a concert piece or something, just, I mean, you can get a sense for what Horner did. I mean, you could look at stuff like Krull and Braveheart, and those big epics that he was doing. You can get a sense of what Horner was going to employ. But the thing with Horner, and I think we all know, is just he takes themes from here, from there, from everywhere. Things sound like other scores, and what this film series needed was a unique voice, and that's where Howard Shore coming in was a brilliant move. Yeah, and his going back to what he did for this movie, it's almost operatic in terms of the motifs and everything he put into this, where you could just listen to the score and know what's going on. In terms of you could never watch these movies, listen to the score, listen to the soundtracks, and you could tell where they are, who they are, what is happening, and feel the, I hate to use the word bigness of a movie, but the epic feel of this movie is perfectly portrayed in this music.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Sean, do you have a sample for us real quick?
Of what?
Just play something random. From the movie.
Oh, from the movie. Yeah, I was about to play a random cue. Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
You mean to keep going or what?
No. This is good. I can tell you. I can tell you right now that they are walking.
Well. Yes, they do a lot of walking in this series. So, oddly enough, that one was called Riders of Rohan. So that was they were actually on horses at that point. But yeah,
I'm just joking.
That was great.
Oh, but I mean, again, that just you can even hear the name of Riders of Rohan, and you can hear that theme in your head. And man, all I know is I've got this on Pandora that I when I'm doing grading at work, and I listen to this stuff over and over. I just cannot get tired of it. It's just so good.
Yeah, it's a grand work, and I think the best of the very best film scores, work magnificently in the picture, but can also stand on their own, and they will invoke, your memories of the film, but they can also implant different images and tell a different story. You're right. Like, if anybody is just listening to this music on its own, you have a complete story told from start to finish, and you can come up with your own ideas and visions and story, and that's what's so great about these scores and scores of this sort. These leitmotivic, thematic, motivic scores, that everything and anything in this series gets a theme, and that sticks with you. So whenever you see that character again, that theme is coming back. Or if you see the Lothlorien elves again in Two Towers, and they get that march, right? But you're feeling it, right? You've heard that before, and now here they are, and there's that theme, and it evokes way more emotion than if it was just something rather random and it didn't have that callback. And I think that's kind of like the old school thinking that I have. I love these big, grand orchestral scores that have themes. There's nothing wrong with a monothematic score or a score that doesn't have any. Right. But for films of this sort, and now again, we can talk Star Wars, we can talk Star Trek, but but these type of epic movies, they deserve to have scores of this sort. And I'm so glad that after this was all said and done, again, because Howard Shore was just a question mark. We didn't know what he was going to do, but he was the right man to get into this series because he loved Tolkien. He got into the books. He understood the language, the story. He understood what Tolkien was doing, because Tolkien basically wrote this book start to finish and really had no idea where the story was going until he was done. And that's the way that Howard Shore attacked this score too. There was no grand plan. Many people thought that there was. I mean, he came up with melodies, but as the scores went on and developed, he went along for the ride musically as well. So he wasn't starting from, let's say, the end like John Williams would. John Williams starts his scores at the end. He gets all this thematic material done. He'll write maybe even the end credits, and then he'll work backwards, reconstruct it all until we get to the end where you finally have that resolution of a theme or themes. So Shore had the themes, but as he was orchestrating, he can then play that theme once at 20-minute mark, but if it comes up again at the 40-minute mark, he's going to reorchestrate it based on what is happening in that scene. And I found that to be utterly fascinating. And the best thing about this as well, and again, if it was anybody else, they would have had a monster team, doing additional music and doing the orchestrations and everything. Howard Shore did everything himself. All the composing, all the orchestrating, every single note was stabbed by Howard Shore, and he did all of the conducting. And he had some help with the lyrics, but he again inserted all those into all the chorus, all the choral, the lyrics, the language, whatever. That's all. It's a singular work. It's a unique work that's to Howard Shore only, and there's nobody else that contributed musically to that series. And I found that to be absolutely remarkable. That one man did this. And it was important to him. It was important to him to orchestrate, because even John Williams has orchestrators, but he felt the need that this had to be his work and his work alone. And
that is an insane amount of work. I can only imagine what he had to go through to get it done and get it done on time. Right.
Right.
Wow.
And on top of that, even write additional music when they were doing the extended cuts.
Right.
So he had to go back to it and
adjust, right? And right.
And then when you think of it, and I even have this written down here, while he was writing these scores, he was still writing scores for other filmmakers. So in 2001, he wrote music for The Score in a small film called Tape. 2002, he wrote 3 additional scores. Panic Room and Spider for David Cronenberg. Panic Room was for Fincher. But then he was called upon by Martin Scorsese for Gangs of New York because Elmer Bernstein's score was completely rejected. So Howard Shore was asked, who was a frequent collaborator of Scorsese's as well, to write the music for that epic film. This is all the while he's still writing music for Lord of the Rings. And then 2003, he didn't have anything credited for that year, but he was also working with Scorsese on The Aviator. So the sheer amount of work that Shore was doing at that time, I mean, he could have easily said no to any of these filmmakers, but he decided that he was also going to write music for his friends, people that he knew. It's insane. Those 3 years, just absolutely insane amount of work. And all of those scores are fantastic as well. Everything that he was doing besides Lord of the Rings, just fantastic stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to piggyback that on that as well, in terms of these aren't little films he's doing, right? There is a pressure for these big productions, these big name directors, these connections that he has. He has to produce. he's got to make it work, and he ends up doing it great. And I guess it's just when you are good at what you do, it's easy or something, because all I know is when I initially started college wanting to be a music composition and a double major in music comp and psychology, and I immediately dropped music comp because it was just the time consumption required is just out of this world.
Absolutely.
The one thing that I kind of want to make sure that listeners of the show know, because I do know that we do have some listeners that love movies but may not be as versed in films, scores, and music as the four of us kind of music nerds are, is that these 3 movies were treated as one film, and so we have to kind of keep in the back of our mind as we're talking about what he did for Fellowship and then Two Towers. He had to treat this as one film, right. and so if you watch these movies and think to yourself, well, John Williams did 3 different scores for the 3 Star Wars movies. So I said, well, yeah, but he had 6 years. There was 3 years in between each film.
Yeah.
So I think that's an unfair. Not that anyone that I know has made that comparison. I'm kind of playing devil's advocate for someone that might make that argument, because I had that argument in my brain. So I thought, well, maybe somebody would say that.
Well, and to that point, I think it's something to be said that film composers I have a lot of respect for, because they have a deadline, and it's a hard deadline to get this music ready for public consumption. If I'm writing a symphony, which some symphonies anywhere from 25 minutes to 2 hours, but you think about the amount of music that had to be prepared for these movies, and the deadline and the constraints that were on him as a composer, while, as Erik said, he's also doing these other projects. It's just big brained, as my middle schooler would say.
Yeah, I mean, he wrote
there's
it's like 12 and a half hours worth of music, right, Erik? I mean, it's 12 and a half, 13
It's
hours.
massive.
It is. I mean, now you could argue, well, a lot of it's just repeating. Some of it is, but it's also
It
not.
builds
It's
on
not.
itself.
None of it
it's telling the
repeats.
story.
Yeah. The orc theme from Fellowship is a little different than the orc theme from Two Towers that it is from the Attack in the third one. So they do build on themselves. It isn't the same. It's not like Erik. You used the phrase the last time you were on. You called it needle drop. I think that was the phrase you used.
Yeah, I mean that's a different. Well, it's either needle drop or tracking music, and that's a whole other thing that's done with either with music supervisor or the director. Like, for instance, the tracking music, you would hear it in the prequels of the Star Wars big time. So you might hear one cue at one point, and then you might hear it again later on. You're like, well, that's just the exact same piece of music, and that literally is. That's tracking. Needle dropping is usually saved for like songs, so you're going to needle drop a song into a movie, and again, that's like more of a music supervisor type thing. But when a composer himself is repeating a theme, and doing it purposefully, they are looking for any way, I would say, especially a composer like Howard Shore, of changing it up a bit, but also you don't want to change it up too much that it doesn't become recognizable. So, as you said, the Mordor, Sauron stuff, or even the orcs, Isengard orc stuff. I mean, it's always 5/4. It's always 5/4 rhythm. It's always metallic percussion and drums and the chains. That even just the sound of it, the orchestration of it, is a callback. You can hear that, and even if it's played in a different pattern, or even if it's maybe a variation on a theme, but if it's using those orchestrations, you know exactly who that belongs to. Yeah. And he does that well in this that does it extremely well in this movie, because he uses specific instruments also for specific characters, or like Rohan has that 12-string fiddle. I forgot what it was called. I should have written it down, but it's a distinct fiddle. Even the sounds of the Shire and the hobbits, it's all very positive and Celtic and light. But then you get into stuff like what was the one theme that I was thinking of? It's just all low growling music.
Well, anytime there's orcs or Mordor, that's pretty much trombones, low brass, tubas, a lot of cellos, a lot of double basses. I mean, anytime you hear a trombone, you know that somebody's about to get killed by an orc or something.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of whether it was the Balrog, where everything was just super low instrumentation. I know that they had, I think it was like a rugby team that was doing all the grunts and growls.
Yeah.
For that, so it was all male dominated. Like, for instance, the elves, very light and angelic female voices. Mm-hmm. But then you get stuff for, I'm trying to think, I know it's in Return of the King, and I wrote it down here somewhere. The Army of the Dead. That's it. They were all, what was it? Was it below the treble clef or something like that? I forgot what he called it, but it's all just super low growls and instruments and just male chorus, nothing else. And so that's the contrast between the two. I mean, again, just the thought of not only writing a melody, but to find the proper orchestration for it is outstanding. Brilliant stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm picturing in my head all that. It's like it's not guttural chanting, but it's almost like that Gregorian chant stuff that they do.
Yeah, and it's like pedal tones that they're singing.
That's the phrase. Yeah.
And it's difficult to do. There's a number. I think it's either in the third prequel Star Wars or the second one where Palpatine is talking, and they do that.
Yeah, it's when they're at the opera.
The throat singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
throat singing. Yeah, it's kind of that, similar to that.
Yeah.
I want to backtrack just a minute.
By all means.
We were talking about other composers, how they would have interpreted it, and I think a really good example for our listeners, if they want to check this out, is the Symphony No. 1, Lord of the Rings by Johann de May, which was written, of course, based on the book at this time, because the movies weren't even thought about. But if they want to look that up, Johann de May,
I cannot find that on iTunes anywhere. I've been looking for it. It's one of my favorite pieces I've ever played as a band, and I cannot find it.
Yeah, it's on Spotify if you look up Johann de May, and it's Johan, lowercase de, and then capital Meij is how you spell his last name. And he was the first composer that I knew of as a high school student that had written something based on a book. Of course, I hadn't been introduced to others that like Francis Macbeth that wrote for, Moby Dick and things. So, but this, if you listen to it, it's very similar. A lot of the ideas, maybe not the themes. You won't be able to recognize anything that Howard Shore didn't steal anything and use it in the movie, but you can definitely tell that there's an idea, because when you listen to the Hobbits, because there's a movement in the symphony called Hobbits, and if you listen to that and you listen to Concerning Hobbits by Howard Shore, they're very much the same. They have the same life to them. They have the same spirit to them. So it's kind of cool. It's a way that you can sort of see how another composer would have handled this soundtrack.
Yeah, and you can even go back to the animated film in 1978.
Oh yeah,
Leonard
the
Rose.
greatest adventure the world's ever seen.
Vastly different, and then there's a whole bunch of great video game scores as well, based on Lord of the Rings. Yeah, but you're right. It's tough to imagine anybody else, writing the scores.
Yeah, it is.
The score, and yeah, you just wonder. You kind of wonder what it would have sounded like. Would have been as good? Would they have dug as deep as Shore? I mean, that's the commitment that he made. And
and I wonder if part of it came because Jackson had been working on this for years and years and years. The ideas, the visuals, he was getting all this stuff together, since the, I don't want to say the dawn of time, but he's been doing it forever. And then having to shift from being, going after, oh gosh, what was his name? Not Howard Shore, their original target.
James Horner.
Going from James Horner to Howard Shore. It's not like Howard Shore's been working on this for years and years and years. And to be able to come up, I'm just continuously amazed to be able to come up with something like this in a short period of time, and to match the effort for Jackson's visuals and what he did and the pre-planning is Herculean. It's just, I don't want to glow too much about Shore, but holy cow, he just hit it out of the park with this thing.
So I've been playing a little bit of the Symphony Number 1 that Andrew mentioned, the Lord of the Rings, Movement 1, being performed by the President's own Marine Band. And
the Shadowfax, is that the part you're in?
It's just number 1, Movement 1.
I think there's a sub movement called Shadowfax that's what you're listening to.
It doesn't tell me, so
yeah.
And honestly, I've never listened to this, and I want.
Are you serious?
Never listened to it. Yeah.
You never got to play it as a baritone?
No.
Oh man.
I didn't go to a school with great music, man. Ask your wife. She knows.
Dude. Yeah, no, that's such good stuff.
For those that don't know, I went to high school with his wife. I didn't mean for that to come across as weird. I just realized there might be some people that don't know that. I went to high school with Sam's wife. Anyway, yeah, no, that's great. I'm gonna have to listen to that at some point, or download it. Yeah, especially because you're right. There's two euphonium players right there in the middle of the shot that I'm looking at right now.
It's some amazing parts for euphonium. It really is.
Oh, that's great. That's really cool. Okay. Gosh, yeah, this has been such a great discussion. I'm just enjoying listening to it. I mean, this is great. I hope people are enjoying it as well. Again, I don't really have any other place to go with this other than let's talk about some of our favorite moments, musically speaking. If that's okay.
Let's do that.
So, Erik provided me with a nice list of music to kind of pick and choose from here. So, I'll ask Andrew and Sam, though I didn't pull music ahead of time. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have some of the same. I probably have it. So, So, Andrew, give me like one of some of your favorite moments from the movies, if you can kind of pick and choose something.
Yeah. Well, no, that's easy for me. The music, anytime they're in the Shire, is concerning hobbits, and to me, it that's what this movie is. I mean, it's just, well, at least that's the parts that I like to remember. There are other things
The good parts, the happy parts.
Right. Yeah. But when I think about Lord of the Rings, the first thing I think about are the hobbits, and so it's peaceful and it's happy and it's dance-like, and
Yeah, you get that lovely just penny whistle there. It makes me want to just go bake some bread and drink some tea and just forget the troubles of the day.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's and the violin there, or I guess that might be a fiddle.
It's kind of like a little jig.
Yeah.
Jig.
Yeah.
Okay, Sam. Sorry.
The Italian Christmas donkey.
Yeah, you caught me off guard with that. That was that was funny. Okay.
No, but the funny thing is that music is in this same movie as the music that you hear later on down the road with Khazad-dûl and the Riders of Rohan and the lighting of the fire. I mean, there's so many great parts but it fits. It just does. It's not completely different. It's just perfectly fit together.
Yeah, I think the scores feel inevitable. They feel like they come out of the picture, as if they were already there.
Yeah,
it's just a natural extension of the visuals. Like every place, every moment just seems absolutely perfect and right. There's no wasted note. There's no off note. Everything, like I said, even just like, I mean, the elves music, it almost feels diegetic at points. As if you're just listening to them playing the music of their land. And and that's what back to themes, back to orchestration. And that's what I remember I was rewatching these movies this past week, and that's exactly the thought I had. It was just, that is exactly the way it was supposed to sound and feel. Everything was pitch perfect.
Yeah, you said that one phrase where it's like, it almost feels like we're listening to Shirelings play this.
Yeah.
Like this is at the
It's
radio.
their folk song.
Yeah, like they've got some dudes off in the corner that just play this all the time in the Shire. Like that's their job. You've got the one guy
That's all they do.
Yeah, they got the guy that grows the giant pumpkins. You've got the one guy that grows the weed, not the weed, but the tobacco. Well, they always call it.
Maybe.
Okay.
It could be weed for all we know.
Yeah.
But I mean, like when you get to Rivendell for that first time, right, and you see those waterfalls and just the twinkle in the sky and all, and then you're just playing that theme, and you're like, yeah, that's what you would expect to be like, even on a theme ride, right? All of it's just, you would enter and that's exactly what you would hear, and it's so perfect. Everything, even the songs just feel absolutely perfect. Like they were just already there. And yeah, that's what I love about this score. And I don't get that feeling about too many scores of this sort, that just feel like they're perfect. I mean, there's great scores, but absolutely perfect scores. They are a rarity. And this is one of those perfect scores.
So Sean, you played Concerning Hobbits there, or part of Concerning Hobbits. I think you might have it, but one of my favorite spots, one of my favorite pieces in this is the March of the Ents. Do you have the March of the Ents? Because
talk for a minute.
If you want a juxtaposition, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Oh, I can already sense Treebeard is pissed.
Oh yeah, he's getting angry,
and
you don't quite know the strength of the Ents yet, because he's about to call them, and they're about to whoop up on some wizard.
Yeah,
but when they go, they go.
Yeah, Eric, on the Two Towers episode, I played the entire scene of Treebeard's monologue when he sees Isengard and he gets pissed. And, he says, we might march to our doom, and this is it. Like, it's so crazy how powerful. It's just a woman's voice with the melody.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. It's not super brassy. It's not bombastic. It's not a lot of percussion. It's strings and a woman's voice, and that gives you the sense of war. It's so crazy how it does that, how it fits.
Yeah. Because we aren't yet to, the Battle of Minas Tirith. We aren't to the Planar Fields yet, right? So, imagine the restraint that he had to do, knowing this is a 3-film saga, and that you can't leave everything on the table in the second film.
Right. Yeah, and the great thing about that theme, it's an overarching theme for nature itself within the series. So you'll hear it in other portions of the series of, again, nature taking over. And that, you're right, that is just an incredible sequence. Again, you just the amount of goosebumps I got watching through this entire series, it's not fair. I mean, it's not fair how good it is all the time. And and that's just one of those fantastic moments. It's funny because I remember watching The Two Towers for the first time and absolutely hating it. I don't know why. Yeah, I saw it in the theater. I mean, I love Fellowship, but I saw it and I'm like, there's just something off about it. And I watched it again with the extended edition when that first came out, and I appreciated it a lot more. But again, revisiting it, it needs more editing. There's just some pacing problems, but when you get finally to that
I can
point
see that.
with Treebeard, it really does take forever. And there's portions where like even the Helm's Deep battle just gets chewed up by some really, like you go back to Treebeard and it just completely destroys the pacing of the movie. But besides that, that was the only issue I had with the movie was its pacing. I thought I was going to have that same problem again with Return of the King because I haven't seen the extended edition since it first came out, and I felt that was paced much better. So,
it's some of the Rohan stuff too. The beginning of the movie was slow, but
it takes like an hour to get to Rohan, doesn't it?
It's it takes 2.5 hours to get to Helm's Deep. I mean, I know the purpose of that movie and that book isn't just to get us to Helm's Deep, but it does kind of feel like each book leads to a giant conflict, like a main conflict. And in this case, the main conflict is Helm's Deep, and it does take a long time to get there, but then that's okay. It's a good. You need a good build up if you're going to have a battle that's going to last nearly an hour.
Yeah, and I think that getting back to the music, Howard Shore, out of all the 3 movies, I think does a little bit more heavy lifting in The Two Towers than any of the other ones. He really kind of he helps try to get the pace going with his music, and and I think that he's working a little harder in this movie than the other 2.
Well, I think in the first movie we've got the Fellowship theme, right, and he pounds that hard in the slow motion. Where they're going over that little rock face and it's huge. That's about the only spot in that entire movie where it does get really big, right? And Two Towers, you get to Rohan and they've got their own, it feels like their own country worth of music. and it makes it feel that, that much bigger. And when you get to, again, Minas Tirith in the third movie, the second movie, it does feel like he's the one that takes it off, right? You've got the writers, you've got the horse themes, you've got Eowyn, you've got all these different sounds that you didn't hear in the first movie that really expanded this universe and the world building itself. He really brought it all together.
Yeah, I agree.
As we pause, I'm going to play some of this.
Many of these trees were my friends.
I just hear that just makes me sad. And then I'm gonna
Yes.
just gonna bump it up here to. There it is. You're gonna hear a little bit of the music there too. Again, it's simple. It's not a lot of instruments there. It's just some drums and some trees walking and a little bit of vocal and some strings. I mean, it's not huge yet.
Yes. Come, my friends. The Ents are going to war.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm ready to go. I don't know, punch a Russian in the face right now. Anyway. Hopefully, if you're listening to this in a year from now, everything's fine.
We aren't punching Russians in the face. Let's hope not.
At least not all of them.
Yeah.
All right. So, Andrew.
But we still haven't talked about probably the most epic point in the music.
What you got?
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to steal it from somebody else. So Andrew,
I say go for it.
Yeah.
Lighting.
Just go for it.
Lighting the torch, lighting the flames, lighting the beacons. Get that sucker lit. Wake the people up from their naps at the tops of the mountains. Crumble off the frostbit fingers so that you can light the match. Get this thing going.
They have matches in that time?
I don't know.
I don't either. Maybe they did.
Flint. I'm guessing flint and stone.
I mean, I know we made the joke last week about like what do those two guys up there do like all day? But I mean, like, don't you think like they like shat themselves when they saw that those fires were lit? Like, oh my God, we got to do something. It's just talk about hurry up and wait. I mean, you wait for forever. Yeah, I got a little bit of the lighting of the beacons playing. It's a 9-minute track, so I'm gonna fast forward here.
It takes a while. Yeah. But in fact, this is about the only time in the film where it's not that the music disappointed me, but like when you finally get to the Rohan folks and they're like, "Let's go," it's almost a letdown. It's like, oh, it didn't seem to pay off as much as the music was telling us it would pay off.
Just having Aragorn just run in, going, "Hey, the fires are on."
Yeah, it just didn't seem as big as the music was intended.
But then you get that great statement of the Rohan music in the French horns. There's that big fanfare when they say that they're going to go help them out.
Yeah,
and that's pretty awesome. It's great having those two themes, that Gondor theme, and then that Rohan theme, like minutes apart, and just play just big moment. But yeah, the beacon stuff, it's one of those moments in film where the composer's just licking their chops. They're like there's no dialogue and there's pretty much no sound effects, and it's just this is my moment to shine.
Yeah. You're on stage.
Yeah, and you get great examples. Like, I mean, you think about the reveal of the Enterprise in Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
That's a 6-minute silent film that Jerry Goldsmith scored. And it's a magnificent sequence. And this is one of those sequences just with the build up. And then, I mean, who would have thought that, the lighting of, fire and torches would be so epic. And I don't like to use that word a lot because it's just thrown around all over the place. But I mean, when you're talking about the most epic stuff, this is, I mean, besides that, I mean, about 10 minutes earlier, you get this grand shot of Minas Tirith, right? And it's playing the Gondor theme, and it's just so amazing. But then 10 minutes later, we get this lighting of the beacons, and one of my favorite little moments is the helicopter shot just over one of the mountains, and the helicopters are basically flying over, and as the mountain disappears underneath the camera, Shore just lets out this huge gong, and it just resonates forever. And I just have a feeling that he's hitting that sync point just right when the mountain reveals the other torches or the fires, and he just adds this extra bit of again, it's like epicness. and it's it's that huge gong, the tam tam. It's just absolutely love that sound, and I love that part of the of this score. And but that's what I love about all of these movies, is that they all have their own central theme. Even though we had heard the Gondor music in Fellowship, it's really Return of the King where it shines. But where Fellowship, you have the Fellowship theme. That's the central theme of that film. And Rohan, the central theme of Two Towers, and Gondor is your central theme of Return of the King. And I love that Howard Shore developed those themes, or gave those themes to each film. Whereas, I mean, the Ring theme is the overarching theme for the entire series. But it's great knowing that, each of these themes belong to one separate part. So yeah, again, wonderful stuff.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm just listening to it again, even on low volume. It's just, it's so great. And like you said, you don't want to use the word epic too much, because you're right. Yeah, somebody throws a water bottle into the trash can and it goes in. They say, "Oh wow, that was epic."
Yes.
Yeah.
I used
But this
to work.
is true epic filmmaking.
It is.
This,
I mean,
exactly what it is. It's the best of the best epics.
yeah. I mean, just those helicopter shots over the mountains.
Yeah.
That's actually, as weird as it sounds, that's hard to do. Just that those shots.
Yeah.
It's almost as good as when he flew the helicopter under the bridge.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a nice callback. There you go.
Yeah.
Terminator 2 there. Cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. I got a couple other cues here that we want to listen to or just kind of talk about. I mean,
Sure. Yeah. What else you got?
Well, one of the pieces that Erik really wanted us to highlight that it's the part of music or part of the film that my wife has never seen, and that's Shelob's Lair.
Oh my goodness.
My wife can't watch any of that. As soon
tough for me
as
too.
as soon as Frodo walks into that cave, her eyes are shut and ears are closed, and then so as far as she knows, Frodo walks into a cave and then he is carried out by the goblins, and Sam has to go rescue him, and she doesn't know why. Now, she read the part in the book, and she had a hard time with it, just reading about it. So, you gave me 2 tracks here for Shelob's Lair. Which one do you want me to play?
I might have given you
You
I think
did.
they're both very similar, so I gave you the extended. I mean, you could play the one from the regular album. It's, I think, shorter.
It is by half.
Yeah. So play the Shelob's Lair, and
Yep.
you'll get an idea of what Howard. I mean, it is a vastly different cue than anything he has written. I mean, besides all the music he was writing for the monster. What do they call it? The kind of like that octopus thing from Fellowship.
Watcher in the water.
Yeah, that's it. So he's writing all that. This sort of it's a very interesting technique where Shore is essentially So for the water monster, what's it? The Watcher in the water, the water in the Watcher. Yeah, the term is just it's completely. I can't figure out the term, but what he's doing in the music is he's notating the duration, the style of play, but he's allowing the instrumentation or the players to basically do whatever they want. And I think it's aleatoric music, so it's not necessarily written notes, but he's like, you guys are going to be within this range, you're going to play for this long, but you can do whatever the heck you want with your instruments. So it is the most wild, insane piece you'll ever hear. Now, he doesn't do that with Shelob. This is actually, purposeful music. Every note's written, but what he's doing is he's creating this intricate web of notes, and that's a bad pun, but it's exactly what it is. That's just going all over the place, but it's also like different ideas and counterpoint that then create this sort of organized chaos. And it is horrific music, but it is like nothing you've heard in the rest of the series. So the stuff that he writes for the monsters in the series is really, really unique stuff, but for Shelob, it is crazy. And there's so many ideas that he's writing in this tiny little piece. It's about 4 minutes long. And again, it's all over the place, and it's purposely written that way. So, and it fits just magnificently in the picture. It is one of the scariest scenes in the entire series. Well,
yeah, it truly is. I mean, it's a horror scene. I mean, he's in a dark place. He can't see what he's. I mean, we as the camera, the audience, we can kind of see what was going on because they light it, but Frodo can't see anything until he pulls out the star that Gwyneth Paltrow gave him. Not Gwyneth Paltrow. What's her name?
Charlize Theron.
What? Is somebody calling out the wrong name?
I'm doing it accidentally.
Angelina Jolie.
At least I'm in the ballpark. You would have said Joe Pesci at this point.
Tilda Swinton.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's not even close. Anyway, you all know who I'm talking about. Just I don't know her name, apparently.
Galadriel?
Yeah. Galadriel. I can't think of her real name for some reason. My gosh. She's the villain from Thor 3. Did you just say
Kate
Clarence?
Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett. Did you
Kate
say
Blanchett. There you go.
Clarence Thomas?
It started with a C, right?
See, at least my Gwyneth Paltrow is like
It's close.
ish.
Yeah.
It's close.
It's close. Not really. Anyway, my point is that it's a horror scene, right? I mean, this is It kind of reminds me of Peter Jackson getting to go back to his roots a little bit, like with The Frighteners, which is, I mean, not really a scary movie, but it's it's a horror-ish kind of movie. Or like when
and he did have some other real horror movies before that as well.
Yeah, it's just
like not as well known.
Yeah, it's like when Sam Raimi got to do a little bit of horror in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
which is like one of my favorite scenes in the Spider-Man franchise is when Doc Ock's arms are going crazy. It's very much like that. So, yeah, no, that music's terrifying, and I'm now looking around my office for spiders just because of that music. It's great. Okay. Any other pieces we want to hit, or what do you want to do? Because I got the Riders of Rohan, which is apparently the piece that Andrew thinks people are walking.
Well, what's interesting about that, and again, I thought that the big statement of that theme in the horns, not necessarily the fiddle theme, was actually written for the exterior shots of what is the name of their little city? Anyway.
Yeah.
So the kind of the fiddle theme is played for all the exterior shots, but then that big grand, bold, heroic statement of it in the horns, again, is when the king turns from under Saruman's grasp,
it's control. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then he stands up and he takes the sword, right? And Shore's just again given another opportunity to just let his music out, and he gives this just enormous statement of Rohan's music, and it's again just goosebumps. So many goosebumps in that moment.
Yeah, I was playing the wrong track for a second there. If you were getting confused as you're talking about the Riders, I clicked the wrong thing. That's my bad. But that scene is really great, especially when he has a little bit of the murder in his eyes. He's ready to kill Grima Wormtongue, but
right, yeah. But it's just his return is so, again, it could be so over the top. It could be too cheesy. And I think that if anybody was handling this series, right? I mean, just think about it. Think about the subject matter. But you're just taking it deadly seriously. You are. Everything about this, there's repercussions, and there's genuine threats, and people are affected, and you are affected as an audience member because you care about these characters, and every new character you are introduced to, you just kind of like grasp onto them, and you're along for the journey, and I think that's the best part about these movies, is that they make you care, and Howard Shore makes you care with his music. Yeah, that's it.
Well, going back to something that I said last episode or a couple of episodes back, you spend so much time in this world that you start to really bond with the characters, and you start to, become a part of it. And I think the music is very much the same way. You spend so much time, you spend 12 hours listening to this music. Whether it's conscious or not, you're hearing it. And, it becomes a part of the story, becomes part of the narrative.
Yeah, and that's kind of where, when the Fellowship is disbanded in the end of Fellowship of the Ring, and all I kept on thinking is like, are we ever going to hear that theme again? Because they don't come back together again until Return of the King.
Yeah.
But the best thing about it is Shore is then taking that theme. He gives it to Aragon and Gimli and sorry, I forgot the Legolas. So he's writing it in sort of he's not giving the entire theme to them. At times he does, but it's again differently orchestrated. But it's for them on their quest on trying to bring the Fellowship back together. And I thought that was so cool because, again, anytime that they are doing something heroic, you're hearing the Fellowship theme. So there's a great swashbuckling moment when Aragon chucks Gimli in the Two Towers, and it's the big statement of the Fellowship theme. And again, it's sort of that yes moment. It's that exciting moment you feel, and you feel it. I mean, it's a funny sequence, but then all of a sudden, Shore is just kind of turning it on its head, and you're feeling a genuine excitement instead of you're sort of laughing along with the joke, but also you're with these characters, and they're kicking butt, and the music is telling you that. And I mean, the Fellowship theme for me is the one that I absolutely love, and hearing it during the Bridge of Khazad-dûm sequence, the great buildup to its first big, bold statement. And I'm not talking about the one where they're going over the mountain, because that's really written for a solo trumpet, and that's a great moment too. But like when they're all together in an action sequence and where everything is on the line, and you get to hear that splash of cymbals and then that huge statement of the theme as they're running across the bridge, it's thrilling stuff.
In this particular piece, or cue, whatever you want to call it, I always really enjoy kind of the it's like the chanting in the background of the guys.
Yeah.
Like it reminds me of 300 when they're all kind of chanting together, and it's almost like this battle cry as they're being chased by this demon from ancient times, the Balrog. And I also love this. I also just love the sound design of the Balrog itself. I mean, the idea that you have to have this thing, this living, breathing fire, and you have to make it sound big and ominous, and so the music also has to fit that too. It's all really, really great. And of course the books, the Silmarillion, you find out where that thing comes from, and why it was created, and why it's buried in a mountain. So all the fun stuff from books.
Books?
Yeah.
What?
I know. But books can't give you this awesome music, so there's that as well. But
yeah, it's one of my favorite sequences, I think, in the entire series. I love every bit of that.
Yeah, just having them run through those halls, and
oh, I know.
After the fight in the room where they have the cave troll that they have to fight and all that stuff. It's just great. I mean, I know we're just kind of biding time for the moment, but
Yeah, it takes a while. The bridge has to collapse and then come together, and but that's where you hear that wonderful statement. And what's so great about that too is that the shot from above, it doesn't cut away, right? You see the two bridges come together, the sections come together and then fall off, and it's just this wonderful effects shot that it's all shot from above, but Howard Shore's just scoring it with the Fellowship theme, and you really get to get a sense of where you are and what's happening, and there's not all these fast cuts or shaky cam or whatever. You get to really experience it, and that's what I love about these movies too, is that even places are given its moment. Minas Tirith, when you see it for the first time, right? I mean, it's just these beauty shots for 30, 40 seconds. And it was like, okay, we care about this place. And again, Howard Shore is telling you why with his music, and I love those. And as much as we make fun of the running around, but I mean, you get a sense of the land and how vast it is and where they are. And I love that sort of stuff where you're allowing a film to breathe, and you're not being caught up in so many edits trying to cover up stuff. I love being able to just kind of concentrate on this, on one shot and just letting it soak in.
Yeah, there's the bridge part where they've
Yep.
done the thing. Yeah, lean forward, and then gravity takes over.
And you don't get too many build-ups to a cymbal crash nowadays in film scoring.
And then we just get to have the hero moment for a second. We the heroes are safe for about 15 seconds,
Right.
until they realize that the Balrog knew a shortcut, and so now they're having to deal with it again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's when Gandalf realizes, okay, I'm going to have to step up and do my thing and have one of the great, you shall not pass. One of the greatest 4 lines in film history, other than, no, I'm your father.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't get much bigger than those 2 sets of 4, I guess. Anyway. This is actually one of my favorite moments. We've kind of hit on most of my favorite moments. This one and the March of the Ents and the lighting of the beacons. Those are some of my favorites, other than just the overall theme. I really love the again, I'm a low brass player, so of course I get excited when the trombones get to have their moment when it's anything with Mordor. And then of course the ring itself kind of has its own theme that. Almost sad, da, 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 that almost sad kind of theme that gets built upon, and I think it's supposed to make you feel sad because it's my least favorite cue in the entire series, and you hear it 1,000 times, but I think it's because it's supposed to make you feel a little discomforting because it's the ring that's supposed to make you want to be evil and whatever. Like all the stuff we've talked about, the stuff that we love are these awesome moments, right? Like the Hobbiton and the lighting of the beacon, like the hero moments are great. So, Shore does such a good job of. Okay, weird soapbox. I get kind of annoyed. When people say, I don't like it when composers are trying to tell me how to feel.
Which is ridiculous.
Because that's kind of their job.
It's the job of movies.
Yeah. Yeah, the movie is trying to give you an emotion. The director is saying, this is what I want you to feel. And the composer, in conjunction with the director, are saying, yes, this is what I want you to feel. Right? Yep. Like you mentioned, like the Enterprise. We haven't seen the Enterprise yet. At this point in time, 1979, we hadn't seen the Enterprise in 13 years, 10, 12 years. So we're going to take 6 minutes of this long film and show you the Enterprise. And the music is going to be big and epic and wonderful and ocean-faring because we want you to feel a certain way. So that's my soapbox. I just get annoyed when people, the musician's trying to tell me, that's his job. Like, isn't that not, like, if you listen to pop music, isn't it not Britney Spears' job to make you feel one way or another, or Taylor Swift or Adele? Those are bad examples, or maybe they're good. I don't know, but I'm not.
Something that Taylor Swift never made me feel, though, was feel 22.
Oh, well.
I wish I could feel 22.
But like it.
I know what you mean.
I know you mean. Good.
I mean, sometimes composers can be just too on the nose. Sometimes they can interfere and compose something that is just going against everything you see on screen. But when you're as dialed in as, let's say, Howard Shore is with this series, it just all comes together as one. And there's points where you even forget that the score is there. and some people would say that's what the best scores do. The best scores are the ones you don't notice, and I would say yes at some points, and other points where I'm like, no. I mean, we're talking about the Bridge of Khazad-dûm here, and I want to hear that Fellowship theme. It makes me feel something, and of course, another job that the composer has to do is to let you feel the emotions that might not be there, but are kind of underneath it all. Or to set you up for something, or to give you a red herring. They might set you up for something that you think is going to be great, but all of a sudden, boom, no, well, that's not great. And again, this is a great example here for this scene. It's all very heroic, and they're getting away, but wait, nope, hold on a minute. Balrog is still there, and then about 30 seconds later, Gandalf is falling to his, supposed death. And we have this lament, and everybody's sad. And again, during that scene as well, everybody's crying and everybody's feeling something. They're feeling different emotions, but Howard Shore is kind of like helping you feel that emotion. I mean, he's not forcing it upon you. He's just kind of accentuating it. And that's what a good composer does. A good composer also knows when to step away. Yeah. And there is those giant elephants. I forget what they're called.
Oliphants.
That huge sequence there. There's a whole, I would say about 4 or 5 minutes where there's a build-up to the clash between, I think it's the riders of Rohan and those giant elephants, and Howard Shore basically stops the music dead and lets it all play in silence. Yeah, he could have written something, right? But why?
I think it needs to be done more, and I think it's brilliant. Because I do think that sometimes the music does get in the way, and silence is needed.
It's the same reason why marketing has white space. That you say you have to have blank space to let your message breathe, and I think that stuff like that is a perfect spot for it.
And I think you're right. I think composers can sometimes overstep and overdo something because we as humans are uncomfortable with silence. And at times, especially in a movie, you need to be uncomfortable.
Right.
Yep.
I also think that there are times where, just to continue on this, what we're talking about, that just sometimes the music will detract from what's happening on screen. I mean, I can think of times where like if it's a fight scene, but it's not between the heroic hero, which is kind of redundant, but I'm saying like when the evil villain, what I'm saying? Like sometimes it's like between two friends or something, or two adversaries, but the fight is like, it's not, I don't know. There's just moments where it's like, let's just not have anything. And that's okay. That's really good. And I don't know if that's a director choice or if that's a composer choice
I think sometimes it's both.
Or the editor. Yeah. And the editor might say,
I mean, you can have, I mean, I hate bringing up Star Wars again, but I mean, you think that those films are like, wallpapered with music. But one of the key action sequences in that entire series, the speeder bike chase, is completely unscored. There is no music, but it's done because there's so many great sound effects in that sequence. John Williams he doesn't have to do anything for it. It just works on its own. And that's rare for Star Wars. Sometimes it's even rare for John Williams. I mean, there's scores that I've heard of his. I've heard all the cues, and some of those cues aren't even in the film. They're just gone. And it happened here in Lord of the Rings as well. There's cues that Howard Shore wrote, and Peter Jackson decided, nope, we're not going to use it. We're gonna play this silent, or we're gonna play it without music, and that's fair and that's fine. I'm okay with that. And again, if it works, what I don't want, I also don't want a film just wallpapered with music, and it doesn't mean anything, because that's just it's just making up for what really isn't there in the movie, and I can't stand that. That gets in the way. And I can bring up examples, but I don't want to. There's a particular space sci-fi series that's doing it right now. And it's just constant. Even the dialogue scenes are all just music. There's
I gotta know what you're talking about. So. You're killing me. What are you talking about?
Star Trek what the hell is it?
Discovery.
Constantly playing music. That's another thing, is that series does not know how to keep a camera still. So the cameras are moving all the time, and there's music over everything, and it makes the music is not important then, right? And when it's just playing over everything, you're just like, there's a great, they're great composers know when to put it in, and when to insert themselves into a film. And so you can have a great build-up, and then the music comes in, and you're like, yeah, that works. But the moment that you're playing, let's say, everything big, then it doesn't mean anything. Like if you have this giant cue, at the beginning of the movie, and then 10 minutes later, and then 20 minutes later, 30 minutes, all huge, then the climax is not going to mean anything. And I was even going to mention that. I mean, for as big as these scores are, when you get to that final Mount Doom sequence, when, the bad guys are finally defeated, and you're just wondering what's going to happen and how can Howard Shore score this any bigger? He does. And it's enormous. It is absolutely enormous. He's got everything playing. And as much as you might think that the Bridge of Khazad-dûm is epic and the Rohan stuff is epic and all the battle stuff for Gondor and Minas Tirith is all epic, I cannot believe the sound that he produced at the end of this movie. It is crazy huge. It's chorus. It's like a 100-piece chorus. It's all 90 members of the orchestra, but it's crystal clear in the orchestration. It's not muddy. It works with everything. Like Peter Jackson is even bringing down some of the sound effects and letting the music come in, and just I can't believe that Howard Shore was able to inject even more into this score at like the 12-hour mark. It's insane how good it is. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I just listening to you talk about it, it reminded me, Sam and I don't know Andrew shares this, but Sam and I have a weird passion for the film score of How to Train Your Dragon. And,
oh yeah.
And I love that.
My high school band is playing it right now.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Nice. But like you're talking about building, and when they're battling that giant dragon at the end, like that battle sequence is just taking the music from the test drive is what it's called. The track is called Test Drive when he's first learning how to fly on Toothless, and then he just amps it up to 11 for that fight scene, and you get all of the basically every theme except the love theme between him and Astrid, the Hiccup and Astrid. That's pretty much every other theme is like smashed into this 7-minute piece of music, and it's epic and it's awesome. And it's one of those things where like when you hear Test Drive, it's like, oh my gosh, how is the ending going to be bigger than this? And then of course John Powell knocks it out of the park. So
yep.
Yeah, but you're not. Yeah, it's a different scale when you're talking about in the 11th hour of 12-hour film. How do we get bigger? And it's we add giant eagles and make the score bigger. So.
Yes. Yeah, but it's also such a perfect sequence. You think about some other trilogies that just don't know how to end their movies and end it in a right way that makes you feel a certain thing. And this one just, once the ring disappears into the lava, there's a sense of relief, and that's what you're hearing in the music. But it's, like I said, it's turned up to 11, 12, 13 in this moment here. And it could be overwhelming, but it's exactly what you need. It's that victory motif. It's that, yes, it's finally over, and it just feels perfect. It's the again, like I said, it just feels like it was inevitable. This is the music that you were supposed to hear. It's so pitch perfect, and that's exactly what you needed to hear at that moment. And again, that might be on the nose scoring, but I think it's again, it's just so I went back to it about 5 or 6 times today because it's just so good, and I couldn't believe my ears just listening to the orchestration and how enormous it is.
I think that's
yeah. Sorry, and then you think, well, how is he gonna? What else is he gonna do? And then he provides you with Into the West, which is an Academy Award-winning song, and you get Annie Lennox, and you get this beautiful melody, and you're just weeping listening to it, and you just, how in the world can he just keep on going? And then and I found this out today, and I probably knew this many years ago, but I totally forgot. But Howard Shore at the end of Return of the King during the end credits, and I had, again, like I said, you wouldn't know unless you were told, or else you knew the piece of music. He actually tips his cap to another Ring series, and it's Wagner's Ring Cycle, and he adds in a piece from Götterdämmerung, which is the last opera in that cycle. And he plays a little motif from it for about a minute at the end of Return of the King. So I don't know if you stick around for the end credits, but it really ends kind of big, and you're like, I've never heard this music in the whole series before. But yeah, Howard Shore, again, just like, I'm going to tip my cap to the other Ring series. This is insane. Yeah. Really neat.
Well, and when you think of, if you think of epic romantic era composers, Wagner is, I mean, that's like number one.
That's right.
So, using that is another brilliant little tidbit that he did in this movie.
Homage.
Well,
Perfect.
I mean, movie composers, they borrow from the classics all the time, and most famously Hans Zimmer. Some people would say plagiarized. Some people would say honored. It doesn't get much closer to being, from stealing Gustav Holst's Mars as he does for Gladiator. It's pretty close. I mean, even when my son, who's 9, listened to it, said, "Dad, is that Mars?" I said, "No, that's called Gladiator." He goes, "Oh, it sounds the same." Yeah, it does. What were you gonna say, Andrew?
No, I was gonna say, I mean, John Williams the same way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah, they all do. I mean, they all kind of help and they borrow from the classics, and there's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as they're doing their own thing, which is what typically they do.
Yeah.
So anyway, gosh, man, this has been a wonderful discussion, and I hope that people who are listening have really enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed listening, because this has been great, and I didn't have to talk as much, which is also excellent. Anything else we want to talk about? We're going to do just a few little bits here at the end. Anything else we want to hit on? Anything else just burning at you about Howard Shore and how sexy he is?
Oh, well, it's interesting. When we're talking about themes and leitmotifs and whatever, Gandalf really doesn't have one. Out of all the characters,
Right.
Shore purposely said he did. Now, doesn't have one as the Grey. And the reason for that, and I'm going to paraphrase, and I hope I get it right, is just because Gandalf is such a mystery, and we really don't know what he is all about. And so that's why he didn't want to give a specific theme to him again until he hit when he was Gandalf the White. But then I think, Gandalf had a small motif, and you can hear it when he, comes heroically down that hill at Helm's Deep, and I think that plays along with the nature theme as well. And that's his Gandalf the White theme. But as a Grey, he doesn't have one, which I thought was fairly interesting, because every other character gets one. Like even Sam gets one at the end of Return of the King, and Merry and Pippin get one. I mean, it's just and they don't get one right away, but as their characters develop, they get themes. I mean, who was Eowyn, is that her name? The Rohan woman. She has like Eowyn. 3 different motifs that are all related to either Aragon, or to her father, or to Rohan, or to it's like it. Reading through the making of these scores, and as I said, there's a book, and I wish I had it, written by Doug Adams. It's out of print, really expensive, but if you can find it, it's great. But I was reading through the liner notes of the extended edition, and her theme is just woven throughout many different character themes, and it's just incredible. But Gandalf doesn't get one in the first movie.
He's got his pipe. He's fine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, but I mean, again, even one of my all-time favorite songs in any movie is "May It Be" by Enya, and I think again she is an absolutely perfect choice. Her two contributions in Fellowship of the Ring, but "May It Be" is just a lovely, lovely tune, and too bad that I thought she was going to win the Academy Award that year, but Randy Newman had to finally win his first ever Academy Award for Monsters Inc. So, but I love "May It Be" a lot. And then I'm not sure, and I was trying to look at it, but Gollum's song, I don't know. I heard rumors that it was supposed to be Bjork that was supposed to sing it, but she didn't get a chance to, so they had to find somebody else. But I thought she would be perfect for Gollum's song at the end of Two Towers. But yeah, if anybody knows, let me know. I'd like to know.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time even kind of picturing what that would be, but okay, just yeah.
Yeah, if you listen to I forget her name, the singer that they eventually found, very similar to something Icelandic. So, and it would fit that Gollum tune. So
Okay, neat.
Kesha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
K $ ha. Yeah. All right. Man, just all of the information. Hope everybody's taking notes as well.
I mean, like I said, there's so much more. And again, if you wanna know everything and anything about Lord of the Rings music, and I think he's writing a book on The Hobbit as well. And those are the scores. If you want to discuss that later on, that's fine. But Doug Adams is the authority on Lord of the Rings music. He was along with Howard Shore, I guess, when I was writing it, and he had access to everything, and he literally wrote the book on it. He wrote all of the notes for the extended edition of the soundtracks, and he definitely knows his stuff. So, and he's been on other podcasts, and I think he was featured even in the behind the scenes making of the films, or at least during the Lord of the Rings symphony that Howard Shore wrote. So yeah, check out Doug Adams. That guy knows what he's talking about.
Okay.
Cool.
Right on. Doug Adams. Not the guy that wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
No, this guy, he was a contributor to Film Score Monthly, and then he's a very, very knowledgeable musicologist, I guess. He knows his stuff.
Sure. I was expecting
yeah.
at least a chuckle out of Andrew and Sam, but I guess either Sam's batteries are died or it wasn't very funny. Either way.
We haven't heard from Sam in a long time. He's probably been talking and wondering why we're ignoring him.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what happened, because he's left the chat and now has rejoined. So
I swear, like, there's got to be an extended version somewhere of my recording of talking when you guys aren't listening to me.
Yeah,
So
I wish that were the case. Unfortunately, you don't.
Well, I want to hear what you had to say.
yeah, now I don't remember because I don't know how long it's been since I've been able to be heard. So,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess at this point, I'm just going to say that was awesome. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. It was great. And we're going to move over to a little bit of our audience participation. I asked Twitter just to kind of tell us some of their favorite scores. I mean, I can ask you guys some of your favorite scores. I know that this is a conversation that could be in another podcast entirely, which we actually did a podcast on this some time ago. Gosh, where was that? Like back in the 80s? It was like double-digit episodes we did this, where we did our favorite film scores and played little clips of them. We did a top 10. We did top 10 film scores. And,
That's cool.
Yeah, we had a blast. But, I mean, just off the top of my head, I can always just say, like on my phone, I have, playlists. And of my playlist, I have one labeled film scores. And one of my scores, top ones, I have like Brian Tyler for Iron Man 3 and Patrick Doyle from Brave and James Newton Howard for Treasure Planet. My daughter's favorite right now, her two favorite pieces of music on my phone is James Newton Howard from Raya and the Last Dragon, and Michael Giacchino's Doctor Strange theme. She loves Doctor Strange.
That's great.
It is.
Good taste.
Yeah, she's a funny kid. And of course, I also have like if you were to look at which one was the most played, probably in the last year, it's probably going to be "Run Free" by Hans Zimmer, or "Discombobulate" by Hans Zimmer from Sherlock Holmes, or the finale, the William Tell Overture finale from The Lone Ranger by Hans Zimmer.
I tell you, if you want a really fun, I've recently gone through and made a Spotify playlist of some of my favorite new movie scores. If you want a really fun piece, there's a piece called Obituary by Alexander Desplat from the movie The French Dispatch. Now, the movie itself is questionable, but this piece is so much fun. It's a little... it's got tuba, it's got harpsichord, it's got banjo. Like, it's a really cool little chamber piece. Just check that one out. It's pretty cool.
Okay, there you go. Cool. Any other scores you guys want to just highlight real quick, just as I'm queuing up Twitter here?
Yeah, the Bryony Atonement score that they use the typewriter. I still love that one too.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Dario Marinelli won the Oscar for it. The Dunkirk sequence in that film.
Oh, that single shot
is
yes.
Holy crap!
I have to talk about it. It's so crazy how things work out. I literally post on Facebook, "What is your favorite single shot in film history?" And I commented on the movie Extraction because we had just watched Extraction, and I loved that movie. I think it's great, and it has this awesome single shot. And Will Triplett, who is a filmmaker, actor, producer, writer, who is a friend of mine from the days when I actually worked on TV and stuff, he was like, "Dude, you need to see this shot from Atonement." And I'm like, "Atonement? That's like that really sad movie, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, go Google this shot." And so I Googled this shot. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is an amazing shot." And he goes, "I need to come on your show so we can do it." So we reviewed that movie. So that's how I got Will onto our show to review that movie, was because of that single shot. It's such an amazing shot. And that movie was so good, and boy, were we all pissed. Oh my gosh, we were mad at the author.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to highlight before I do Twitter?
Yeah, some of the weird ones I have, like Cutthroat Island by John Debney.
Sure. Oh, I like John Debney. He's great. That's
like in my top 5. And then one that I absolutely I love it, and I think it's James Newton Howard's very best score, is Signs. And it's amazing what a composer can do with just 3 notes, because it's an extremely well spotted movie, but those 3 notes say so much. And then of course you get the tracks Hand of Fate Part 1 and 2. It's a 10-minute sequence right at the end of the movie. Some of the best film scoring you will ever hear. And I'm also a fan of like the Golden Age, and so there's this. It's actually a comic book movie. It was a comic strip called Prince Valiant, written by a guy named Franz Waxman. And so if you're into kind of like swashbuckling adventure movies and scores like that, it's a brilliant score. So that one, and the Seahawk. You ever get a chance to hear the quintessential pirate movie film score? That's it. It's called the
Seahawk? Is that what it's called?
The Seahawk, yeah. Eric Wolfgang Korngold. He only wrote, I think, 12 or 13 scores in his entire career, and they're all fantastic. They're all brilliant. Like The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yeah, 1940. Yeah, Errol Flynn.
Yeah. Seahawk is magnificent. It's enormous. That's like, again, you talk about epic scores. Those guys wrote epic scores back then.
The trailer for this thing, the 2 greatest sea spectacles of all time in one great film.
Yeah.
Errol Flynn as the Seahawk.
Yeah. So he's just coming off of like the Adventures of Robin Hood. So he's a huge star now. At least I think that's true. I think that's the order of it, but yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Wow. He only lived to be 50? That's sad.
Korngold or Flynn?
Flynn.
Yeah.
He died when he was 50. Dang. Okay. Sorry. Didn't mean to bring the whole thing down, but
I've got to pop in kind of a strange soundtrack song that I used to. I think I wore out the CD for back in high school, and that is the very last track on Twister, which was "Respect the Wind." I think it was called, by Van Halen.
Yep.
And it was just the guitar soloist, and it's so good.
It's incredible.
It is so good.
I know I'm like in the small minority, which I guess minority and small is, I guess it's redundant. I'm in the minority by saying I liked Human Being by Humans.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with you.
You're talking about one of the, oh my God. I talked about this on another show. We did Twister, but, and I know we're talking about Lord of the Rings, but anyway, it is one of the greatest, one of the greatest transitions from score to song of all time.
It's so great.
Yes.
It's so good.
Because Mancina's playing Humans Being in the orchestra.
Yeah.
So when they all get up out of Aunt May's house or whatever her name is, right?
Yeah.
It's that rhythm, and again, talk about helicopter shots, right? The one that's over top the water tower.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my God, that whole movie with the helicopter shots are fantastic. But yeah, Mancina's actually playing the tune, and then it's transitioned into the song. Damn, it's so good. That score's fantastic. But yeah, the Van Halen brothers wrote that Respect the Wind, and it's one of the greatest end credit pieces I have ever heard.
Yep.
I'm just curious. It's probably not gonna.
Yeah.
No, it's just the guitar part. I was looking for the actual score.
It's called A Walk in the Woods.
Oh, here it is. No, I found it. Please don't give me credit.
And Trevor Rabin's on the guitar. That's what's so wicked about this too. Top that water tower.
Oh, I love it. I do. I love this stuff. I bought this album for this track, this one track. I gotta download this on my phone. I'm gonna drive to work tomorrow with this.
And what's nuts is that piece wasn't on the original album.
Yep.
I gotta get this on my phone somehow. It's so good. Like, it's better than the movie. Okay, let's just be honest. Like, there are lots of times.
I mean, honestly, how many movies are how many soundtracks are better than the movies themselves? Really,
there's lots.
Many.
So
Many.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fast forward here and see if I can get to the. There we go. Got a little bit of guitar. Oh, we're just gonna sit here, ladies and gentlemen. We're just gonna sit here for a second. It's worth it. There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, freaking love it. Okay, all right. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't want to get sued by Van Halen, but
Good stuff.
We love it. We love it.
it's great.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do this before we.
We can sit here and talk soundtracks.
Yeah, we
all
really
night.
can.
Really
This is for not a soundtrack podcast. We certainly can and could and have, but we won't. Okay.
I think I know a podcast that does talk a lot about soundtracks.
I hope it's a good one.
Oh,
Is it a good show?
That I've heard before.
I don't know. What's
I've
it
heard
called?
good things. Yeah.
Oh, somebody better talk about it because I am leaving the door open here as the host. Please, Erik, tell us about your podcast.
That's called. I believe that's called a segue.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you like soundtracks, Cinematic Sound Radio is the place to be. So cinematicsound.net, check it out. We actually the newest show on the network is awesome. It is produced by my friend J. Blake Fischera. He's a horror music guy. He's actually, again, written a book on horror music. He's done 2 books called Scored to Death and he's doing the history of Goblin in film music. It's awesome. And again, I'm not all that familiar with Goblin and their contributions to film music, so I'm learning a lot from this show. And he's putting on, I think it's about a 4 or 5 part series that's going to be released over the next couple of months. Highly recommend you check that out. And I just did a 6-part series on John Williams that I'm really, really, really proud of.
Wow.
And
only 6 parts?
Yeah, only. And I still missed music on it, but it's basically a re-record and remaster of a show I did 10 years ago, but I think I did it better this time, and I'm really, really happy with the way it turned out. It's turned out to be 6 of the most popular shows ever in the 25-year history of the show. So if you're interested in kind of going from the beginning right to the end, those are 6 shows you want to listen to.
I got it queued up on my phone.
Sure.
I'm going through some other shows that I feel obligated to listen to.
Absolutely.
And I say that with all love in my heart to our good friend Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable, because I'm going to be on his show, tomorrow. So I want to make sure.
Got to do your research.
I got to be caught up and then support my buddy because he listens to our show and he gets into arguments with people, and it's great. So it's awesome. Interaction is the best form of flattery. That's not the word. That's not the phrase. I asked people of Twitter, just tell us what some of your top 3.
Did they get it right this week?
Well, it's hard to get this wrong. Erik, last week people didn't quite read my tweet very well, and I asked for their top 3 Academy Award winners, and we got responses like Goonies and Back to the Future because they were telling us their top 3 movies.
Movies of all their top 3.
Their
movies,
top 3.
Yeah.
So we have lots of fun entries here. Good friend of the show and good friend of ours, Maxton, says The Mummy, which is Goldsmith, I think.
Yep.
Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is a dude I don't know.
Rob Simonson.
I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah, I don't know his work very well. And then Dune, which is Zimmer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of discussion about Dune and Zimmer, and that it's kind of atonal. There's no theme kind of a thing that you talked about earlier.
More of a tone poem.
There's about 8 themes in it, but you got to really pay attention.
Yeah, but I want to hum.
But nothing
something. like Pirates of the Caribbean, where I can hum it. Yeah. Good friend of the show, Rosie. This is how awesome Rosie. All right, Rosie is the awesome lady who wore our shirt to Comic-Con this last year.
Oh,
so
nice.
I said, "Hey, anybody want some stickers? I got extra stickers. I'm just gonna mail them to you." And she messaged me and she said, I have some stickers from the last time you gave me some, but there's a friend of mine who I'm getting a care package for who lives in Germany. I'll throw some of your stickers in there before I mail it. So we're gonna have Cheap Seat Reviews stickers in Germany. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool.
Callie D, I don't know if you listen to our show, but if you do, you have stickers coming. Maybe that was supposed to be a surprise. I guess I just ruined it. Rosie says, while you were sleeping, which I think is going to be on every one of her top lists. She always puts that. Leap Year, Last of the Mohicans, filmed in North Carolina, and Shanghai Noon by Randy Edelman.
She loves Randy Edelman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you, Rosie. Let's see who else. We got Cameron from the Green Shirt Podcast, a newbie's trek through the next generation. He says, aside from Lord of the Rings, who we had on for the Fellowship of the Ring, Interview with a Vampire by Golden Thal, Requiem for a Dream by Clint Mansell.
Yep.
That's the only movie that ever gave me nightmares as an adult.
It's a freaky movie.
That movie freaked me out. And Willow by James Horner, which we also had him on for Willow. I love that.
Good pick.
I love it. Oh, and he also did Twin Peaks by Angelo
Badalamenti.
Thank you. I was going to struggle with that.
And James Newton Howard is writing the score for the Willow television series.
Oh, that'll be good. That's a good pickup. New friend of the show. Her name is Tabby Gray. She is one of the co-hosts of the Happy Hour, podcast. You can find them at Happy Hour. Happy Hour 4, I think is what it is. I want to make sure I give her good credit here. Happy Hour Show 3. They are hilarious, and she's been very supportive recently. She says you have to talk John Carpenter with Halloween, Escape from New York and the Fog. Also, she says you're gonna give me this is gonna be lame as hell, but Freddy vs. Jason soundtrack was the epitome of 2000s metal, and it was an effing banger. And then her and a friend went on a long conversation about that. She also said Ramin Djawadi. I can't.
Yeah, Ramin Djawadi.
Thank you. Who did Iron Man and Game of Thrones and a bunch of other stuff. So that's all great. Am I missing anyone? The only other person I see is also new listener and friend of the show. Her name is Ebony. And she is one of the co-hosts of the Twosome Gruesome podcast. They are a like a horror podcast, and that's a fun show too. And they are from Australia. So
good day.
We've got Aussies listening to us. They are at. I want to make sure I give them the full credit. They are at Gruesome. Yeah, just Gruesome Twosome Movies. If you do a search for them on Twitter, you'll find them there. And two ladies talking about horror, and they're great. And her picks were, I lost it. Hold on. A couple of them. Let's see. Suspiria. I've never heard of Suspiria.
Goblin.
Oh, same dude. Okay. Suspiria, Queen of the Damned, and Back to the Future. Those were her three.
Good. Got Back to the Future on the list.
Yeah, so thank you.
No Ozzy scores? No Brad May?
No, sorry.
No Nigel Westlake, no Babe. Come on.
Good
score though. Good score.
Jesse did. I missed Jesse. Sorry, Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable also said Tron Legacy by Daft Punk, Highlander by Michael Kamen,
great,
and the Star Trek the motion picture by Jerry Goldsmith. So
all great picks.
That is one of my favorites.
You know that Tron soundtrack was really surprising.
Yeah,
when it came out, I love to listen to it, and it's one of those that I love to listen to while I'm working because it's almost puts you in a trance.
Sure.
Well, and you hear, in my mind, because I have no idea who they were at the time, Daft Punk is going to do Tron, and you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that they were the perfect choice based on their sound, but they surrounded themselves with the right people to help them write or at least orchestrate. Like you're listening to, there's a lot of orchestra in it. So they got this guy named Joseph Trapanese to do the orchestrations. And that is a wonderful hybrid of symphony and electronics like you've never heard before. And I'm really glad that those guys felt that the symphony orchestra was important to their score. Because it could easily have just been like this electronic, and it would have been great. I mean, all the electronic stuff in it, I think, is just absolutely mind-blowing. Like every single track in that score can stand alone, and it's bloody brilliant. And I didn't expect it to be that great. I mean, think about that year. We also had How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
And I'm still upset that the Social Network is the one that won the Academy Award. It's just brutal. So, but I mean, you got two classics that year. I mean, there are genuine classics like Tron Legacy and How to Train Your Dragon are just going to live forever.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most surprising scores I have ever heard, which was Tron Legacy. Brilliant stuff.
Great. That's it. I need to end the show. I didn't anticipate this show going 2 hours, but
just like Lord of the Rings, we'll go another 4 hours.
Don't let it go.
No. It's way more my fault than it is yours. So this has just been a blast. Again, Erik, thank you so much for having us on. You are from the Cinematic Sound Radio podcast. The podcast is just so much cooler than ours. Please go check them out.
The better CSR out there, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, every time I hear you guys say it on the show, I'm like, CSR, that's mine.
Yeah,
like, you guys probably. Yeah. I'll just add the P to the end of mine. Yeah. CSRP. How's about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a radio out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Call letters. I got my own call letters.
Yeah. Well, actually,
it's Canadian too. It's perfect. It's C.
There you go.
Yep. Nice.
That's what our call letters begin with here in this country.
There you go.
That's fun. I didn't know that, but now I did.
Yeah.
Now I know do.
Yep.
And everybody else listening does as well.
There you go.
Again, you are at Sin Sound Radio on Twitter, and I'll put
Correct.
your link to your website in our show notes. Go check Erik's stuff out. It's awesome. Pretty much every time I have a guest on, I listen to an episode just to kind of make sure that I know what I'm getting myself into. And your Waterworld episode was just unbelievable. I loved it. So that's when I said I have to have this guy on. And who was on that show with you, Randy, we had on for our Empire Strikes Back episode. So I've had...
Well, we're doing a Last Starfighter next, so if you like that.
Oh, I love The Last Starfighter.
Oh, man.
We're getting into that. And Randy did an interview with Craig Saffin, the composer, so that'll be on the network. We're going to have that run, and then we're going to talk about Last Starfighter.
And there was another podcast that I listened to recently, about 2 years ago, did a interview with Craig Saffin, but they didn't really talk about The Last Starfighter because they're the Spy Hearts podcast. And
okay. Remo Williams then.
So they were talking more about one of his...
Remo?
Yes, Remo. Yeah, that was the main primary move. They talked about that, and they mentioned Starfighter, and that was kind of it. And I'm like, no, that's what I want to hear about. So I'll check out Randy's interview. That's awesome. We are Cheapseat Reviews. We are the other lesser CSR. You can go to our website, cheapseatreviews.libsyn.com. When you've been doing it for 25 years, you get to own the, it's crazy. Like people, when I go, oh my gosh, you've been doing it for 8 years. I'm like, yeah, but I know a guy who's been doing it for 25. So
8 years is a good chunk of time too. Though,
8
man.
years is a long time. I'm not, it's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, Sam and I have been doing this since,
No one has told us to stop yet.
Well, I've tried many
except for that one person.
Yeah. He tried so hard that we said, well, if we make him join the show, then he has to stop. So anyway, cheapseatreviews.libsyn.com is our website, or you can hit our link tree and find links to all of our stuff. Buy our merch. It would be great to have income. Mainly, honestly, if you buy our merch, which would be great, but we use that money to buy merch so I can give it away at special events like our 400th episode coming up this summer. Episode 400 is coming up this summer, and we're going to do some giveaways, which is also a lot of fun. In the meantime, please leave us a review. iTunes, where do people... Good Pods would be great. What are other places?
Spotify now does reviews, don't they?
I think so. We've only
Podchaser.
Podchaser. There's so many.
The Yellow Pages.
Bathroom stalls. Just whatever. Like anywhere that you want to leave us 5 stars, that'd be really great. iTunes is kind of probably the most popular still, but all those other places would be great.
It helps.
Yeah,
Every
it does.
little bit helps.
Really does help. And congrats, Erik. I think you posted the other day that on Chartable you're in like a top 200 podcast.
Wow,
that's just
Sam.
awesome. I would bet that you got probably a big push from that John Williams 6-part you did.
That was an unreal series. Like when I did the first part, I shared that out. It's as if I paid to boost it, but for some reason on Facebook and Twitter, it exploded. I have never seen so much engagement in one show.
Yeah.
And that just boosted my numbers up significantly. It's insane. But I'm super popular. You're talking about weird places that you're popular in. They love me in Pakistan, Chile, and Israel.
Nice.
Well, they love them some J-Dub.
Yeah, I'm number 4 in
Johnny
Chile
Dubs.
in the music category for some reason. But hi, everybody in Chile.
Nice.
Yeah. You're like that. You're like the not the Hasselbeck of Germany. What's his name?
Hasselhoff.
Hasselhoff.
You were really close, Sam.
right.
I give you some props.
Yeah.
For that.
I was right there.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's an improvement.
So you're the Hasselhoff of Chile.
Yeah.
So there
You just don't have as much hair as he does. Okay,
No.
I gotta find a way to end this. We're turning into we're turning into the Return of the King.
4 times.
Hey, no, this is just
start
like
playing
Lord of the
Baywatch
Rings,
music.
where, that's a hard time to end.
Yeah.
It's a hard.
But you know what?
way to
After
end.
an epic episode like this, it should take a long time to end.
Yeah.
We actually got a lot of credit for our take on the fact that movie has a lot of endings and that we're all okay with it, because if you spent 11 and a half hours with these characters, it's okay to take 25 more minutes to say goodbye. So with that being said, we've been with you for 2 hours. We're going to take this last 20 seconds to say goodbye. Erik, again, the pleasure was all ours. Thank you so much for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been our pleasure to talk to you about this stuff, and we're really just grateful to have spent the last month talking Lord of the Rings with you. But next week, we get to breathe and do something completely different. Next week, we're doing Stargate. So we're going from epic,
Another
awesome
good soundtrack, by the way.
We did an episode on Stargate.
I think that's going to be a movie where the score is better than the movie. So
no,
it's
got to hold up, right?
I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't know. We'll find out next week.
Yeah.
In the meantime, like I said, go to our sites. That'd be great. Leave us a review. That's it. On behalf of Andrew, Sam, and Erik, this is Sean saying thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.